Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel. And if you are new, welcome. I'm so glad you've joined me here. My name is Courtney. I am a stay-at-home homeschooling mom, and on my channel, I focus on food and kitchen content. I put out grocery hauls every single week, what's for dinner videos, and typically I try to throw out a third video that has something to do with whatever I'm doing in the kitchen. Recently, I have started a canning and food preservation journey, so I'm working on some of those videos right now. Anyway, if you are into food and kitchen content, I am your girl. Stick around, hit the subscribe button, and let's hang out. So this week I kept the meals super simple. These are all recipes that I kind of threw together based off of like videos I saw or pictures I saw on Pinterest or other social media platforms. I didn't have recipes for them, so I'm just kind of winging it, but I wrote everything down and I will list it down below in the description box. So first off is this gnocchi pizza bake. And this was so good. So I started off with half a pound of sausage. You could use Italian sausage, but my family doesn't like that. So I just used some regular old Jimmy Dean sausage. I also sauteed half of a small onion with it. And then once that was pretty much fully cooked, I did go ahead and toss in a little bit of pepperoni because it is a pizza bake after all. But y'all don't worry, there's going to be so much more pepperoni going in here. I don't know if you're like me, but I love pepperoni. I mean, I love pepperoni. So this would definitely not be enough for me. We're going to have some more on top. It's going to be yummy and delicious. I just wanted to heat some of it through and kind of get it in the center of the casserole as well so that, you know, there was pepperoni all the way through. Now, like I said, I did use sausage, but you could use ground beef or ground turkey or just no meat at all if you want to. You could do this with veggies like a supreme pizza. Bell pepper, onions, mushrooms, that kind of thing. So really just kind of play with it and make it your own. Now I've got myself a bag of Dollar Tree gnocchi because we are not fancy over here. And I am separating all of those because sometimes they stick together in the package. Now this is one thing I would do differently. Next time I would air fry those prior to putting them in the casserole dish just to give them a little more texture. They were really good and they made for a great like mock pizza crust here. But I think I would have really enjoyed that air fried texture that gnocchi gets when you cook it that way with the little brown crispy edges. That's just me though. This was fabulous and my whole family loved it. I then topped it with the meat mixture and I tried to spread it around evenly so that there would be like a great amount of sausage and onions and stuff in every single bite. Then I whipped out a jar of Great Value brand marinara sauce. You don't have to get fancy with this either. You can use pizza sauce, pasta sauce. You could even use a can or two of just regular old diced tomatoes. Whatever you have on hand is fine. We're just looking for like a saucy kind of thing going on here and a little bit of the tomatoes to kind of offer up a little bit of extra flavor. I just poured mine around carefully, trying to make sure that I got like an even layer of it on there. And then I'm going to kind of shake this around a little bit just to get all the sauce down in the nooks and crannies between the meat and the gnocchi and stuff, just to make sure it's all settled and nestled down in there. Once that is done, we're going to move on to topping our pizza pasta here, or our pizza gnocchi. I'm just using the shredded stuff from the store, but you should really grate your own cheese just because it melts better. This was a rough week at our house. It was our first week back at co-op, plus we just so happened to be sick. Now we were no longer contagious. We had gotten sick the Friday before, but we were still, you know, kind of running on empty this week. So I was not going to grate my own cheese. I just took some help from HEB and used their pre-shredded stuff, which tastes fabulous. And it melted pretty well, but it's definitely better if you melt it yourself. You can use whatever cheese you want, though. I did the mozzarella blend. It's got provolone and Parmesan in there as well. But you could use cheddar if you want, or whatever your family likes. I sprinkled a little bit of parsley on top, and then I threw on a little bit of pepperoni, and who am I kidding? I threw on a lot of pepperoni, and then I thought, ooh, internet people are probably going to judge the amount of pepperoni I'm putting on here, so I kind of scaled back there at the end. But I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I love me a good crispy pepperoni on top of some pizza or a casserole break. And look at those. Oh my gosh, they're crispy and delicious. It's my favorite. I love it. I baked this at 350 for 30 minutes and it was fabulous. I let it sit for like 10 minutes before I served it up so it wouldn't fall apart. And I just put some garlic knots on the side and it was absolutely amazing. I like this better than the pizza pasta bake. All right, honey lime fish tacos. Now, when I originally saw this, it was honey lime shrimp tacos. I didn't have any shrimp in my freezer at the time, but I sure do have some fish up there, and I thought, well, it'll work just fine. So I'm throwing fish in here, but you could do shrimp if that's what you have, or you could even do chicken. I don't see why chicken would be a problem. So I started off with some honey, and again, y'all, I'm just kind of eyeballing this from things I've seen online. I don't have exact measurements or recipes. So I threw in about a quarter cup of honey or so, and I threw in about probably 3 to 4 tablespoons of lime juice. Then I added in a real generous amount of garlic powder and a really generous amount of chili powder. And I thought that would be fabulous. And let me tell you, this marinade was so simple, but it was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. So once I had all of my seasonings and stuff in there, I just gave this a really good mix. You know, that honey doesn't always want to incorporate, so make sure you're really, really giving it a good stir and scraping the bottom of your dish here, just so that it all incorporates and you get a really nice even marinade. And then I just took my fish, which happened to be, I think it's pronounced swai, S-W-A-I. That's what I had on hand, but I think tilapia would be fabulous, and of course salmon's always good in everything. I just took my little fillets and threw them right in there. And you just really want to let these marinate for, if you can, 2 to 3 hours. But I mean, anything's better than nothing. If you've only got 20 minutes, that's perfect. You could really leave it in there all day, so you could throw it together in the morning, and I don't think it would be an issue. I put mine in because we had to go to a dental appointment and we had some other things we had to do that day, so mine probably sat in there for about 5 or 6 hours, and it was still just absolutely beautiful and lovely. So there it is after it sat all that time in the fridge. And I just put some parchment paper on a little baking sheet and threw my fish on there, and I cranked my oven up to 400 degrees, and then I popped this in there for about like 10 to 12 minutes. Cooking time's gonna vary. Now if you're doing shrimp, you could totally just do it on the stovetop. If you're doing fish, I really do recommend air fry or oven. I think that the fish just cooks better that way. So while that was doing its thing, I pulled out my head of cabbage and I just cut off a little bit off the side, just what we were gonna need for tonight, because I knew we weren't really gonna have much in the way of leftovers. And then I just thinly sliced this into shreds. I wanted to top my fish tacos with cabbage because it has a little more body to it and a little bit more crunch, and the fish is super, super soft. It doesn't have a lot of texture to it, and I thought the cabbage would be a beautiful complement to it. Plus I feel like it's got a little bit more in the way of like vitamins and nutrients than lettuce does. So I just thinly shredded that the best I could by hand, and I'm going to pop that in a bowl, and then we're basically just going to kind of like quick pickle it, which is really probably not the most accurate term either. I'm throwing in a little bit of salt and a little bit of lime juice. I'm gonna shake it all around and just let it sit on the countertop while I'm doing everything else. That was it. Nothing fancy. It doesn't make the cabbage soft, but it does kind of make the texture a little bit nicer, and it gives it a little bit of flavor. It was really, really good, and it complemented the sweetness of the fish because there was a lot of the honey coming through. Next, I grabbed some avocados because I really, really wanted some guacamole. I had 3 that were feeling pretty nice and ready to go. So I went ahead and squeezed those into a bowl. That doesn't make for a lot of guacamole for a household that really likes guacamole, so I'm going to bulk this up quite a bit to stretch it a little bit further. I went ahead and mashed those avocados up, and oh, they were so perfectly ripe. I was so pleased with them. But I got them all smashed, and then I pulled out a little bit of onion, and I just minced up about half of a very, very small onion. Not quite half, because it would have been probably overkill. Green onion would be great in here. I didn't happen to have any that I could use on this though. Then I grabbed a tomato, just a regular slicing tomato, and I seeded it. That's what I was off doing, just dumping all the seeds down the drain. And I just diced that up and added it right on in there as well. I added more tomato than I did onion just because I feel like people like tomato more than they do onion. And then I added in a couple of tablespoons of cream cheese and some of my confit garlic, which is just like roasted garlic. Of course, you could just use fresh garlic or garlic powder. That'd be perfect in here as well. I'm just giving that a really good mix, incorporating it all together. This is almost done, but we do want to make sure and add in some acidity. I like lime juice. I think it pairs beautifully with avocados, but lemon is fine as well. And I've even seen people use vinegar. So whatever you've got is great. And we had our great spread of food. The cabbage was perfect. The guacamole was delicious, a little bit of extra onion, some fresh cilantro, and I used that cilantro avocado Bold House Farms yogurt dressing. That was such a just wonderful topper for these fish tacos, and of course it had some cotija cheese that I had purchased. There's the fish fresh out of the oven. I just flaked it up. Look at those tacos, y'all. These were so good. I just took some corn tortillas and threw them on the open burner on my gas stove to just kind of grill them a little bit. So delicious. You could of course use flour tortillas or just heat your corn tortillas up in the microwave. Totally up to you. So good though. Y'all gotta try that one. All right, bruschetta chicken. This one is about as straightforward as you can get. We're gonna whip up some bruschetta. So I've got some olive oil, and I'm gonna throw some of my confit garlic in here. Now, if you don't have confit garlic, I really do recommend roasting a head of garlic for this. But if you don't have time or you're not gonna do it, just throw in some fresh garlic or some garlic powder. Either one will be fine. I'm mashing up my confit garlic. It's pretty much roasted garlic. I'm mashing it up just to create like a garlic oil dressing here that we're going to use for this bruschetta. I do want to say, typically bruschetta does have both cheese and balsamic vinegar in it. You will not see that in mine. One person in my household doesn't like cheese, and another person in my household doesn't like balsamic vinegar. So I'll show you my remedy for that here in a minute. I added some onion. That's not always found in bruschetta, but I thought it would be good in here. And then I had a pint of cherry tomatoes that I had just sliced in half. And then I'm going to add some salt and some pepper to this. That's it. I'm going to give it a good stir. We're going to add some basil later. I know that bruschetta always has basil in it. I don't want to cook it though because it does something to the basil. So I want to add that fresh at the very, very end. I am going to let this sit on my countertop for about 20 minutes or so, just so the flavors can kind of meld. And I am working with chicken thighs today. This could be chicken breast. It could be really anything you have. It doesn't even have to be chicken. It could be pork. It could be fish. It could be whatever. I'm going to season mine with just some Kinder's Italian seasoning, but you could do any spice blend that you like, Padilla Complete, anything. Salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder would be beautiful on here. I just happen to have this particular seasoning that I really, really love, so that is what I used. And I did season both sides of the chicken. I kind of pat my seasoning on top just to kind of keep it in place a little bit. And I am pretty generous with the seasonings. Chicken can be super bland, and even though we're putting bruschetta on top, I wanted to make sure that there was plenty of flavor in the chicken. So I'm kind of heavy-handed with it. I've got a greased casserole dish there. I just sprayed it with my nonstick spray, and I'm going to place my chicken right inside of that casserole dish there. I'm just trying to get them as flat as possible. Chicken breasts would be great in here just because you can definitely keep them nice and flat. You just might want to really cook them carefully so you don't overbake them. So there's my bruschetta mix. It's been marinating in that beautiful garlic oil, and it smelled fabulous. It had so much wonderful, wonderful flavor to it. I'm just going to take that and top my chicken with that and just kind of pile it on top. I'm not doing anything fancy. Now, at this point, if you wanted to and you didn't put any Parmesan or anything in here, you could top this with some mozzarella cheese if you wanted to, or add some Parmesan here. And again, a lot of bruschetta has balsamic vinegar in it. Mine does not, but if you want to add it, you would already have it in there and you'd be putting it just straight on the chicken with this right now. I have opted instead to just use a balsamic glaze that I'll show you in just a minute and individually top the chicken when it comes out. So that way people in my house that want it can have it, people that don't won't. My husband is just not a fan of it, and I mean, that's fine. We'll just do it separately like this. And I actually kind of prefer this balsamic glaze over traditional balsamic vinegar because there's a lot of richness going on in here, and that little sweet vinegar hint at the end is really lovely with that glaze. I'm going to bake that at 350 until the chicken is cooked. It's really going to kind of vary depending on the size of your chicken and the type of chicken that you use, so I really am hesitant to give a strict cooking time. I do believe mine took about 30 to 45 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood. And of course you can see now I'm just tearing up some basil and throwing it on top. These basil leaves were gigantic. For whatever reason, the thing of basil that I got had these gigantic leaves. And you know what? They were so tough. I was a little bit disappointed by how tough they were. I usually get smaller leaves and they're tender and beautiful. So look for the smaller leaves. There's that glaze I was talking about. I cooked some spaghetti squash on the side there. And then I've got my chicken plated next to it, and I am just pouring that glaze over the top. This was, chef's kiss. So yummy and delicious. We absolutely love this one, and I had some more garlic nuts, so I threw one on the plate. This was such a good meal. Definitely leaning on the healthy side. Lots of freshness going on there. And again, I will list everything down below in the description box so you guys can make this one. The last recipe is Mexican street corn enchiladas. These were exactly how you think they're going to be. They tasted fabulous. If you like Mexican street corn, it was very like front and center. I'm going to start by making the enchilada sauce. So I've got my confit garlic. I would really recommend roasting some garlic for this. But again, if time is an issue or you just don't have any, garlic powder is a great substitute. I don't know that I would put fresh garlic in here simply because I think it would burn. I'm going to go with the roasted garlic, and I added in about 3/4 of a cup of sour cream and 1 can of green enchilada sauce, and I'm just mixing that all together, getting it all incorporated really, really well. Now, an alternative to adding in roasted garlic is if you can find the roasted garlic green enchilada sauce, which is my absolute favorite, use that instead. I have not been able to find it lately, though. I set the sauce off to the side and I'm starting on the filling now. I'm using just a couple of chicken breasts off a rotisserie chicken. You could use whatever chicken you have, canned chicken, chicken you're going to cook from your freezer. It's up to you. I also tossed in a couple of tablespoons of cilantro and 1 minced poblano pepper and a drained can of corn, just regular old plain corn. So to that, I went ahead and added in some chili powder. I did about 1 teaspoon of chili powder, and then I did about half a teaspoon of garlic powder and half a teaspoon of onion powder. You're gonna wanna add in some salt and pepper as well. And we're also gonna add in some cotija cheese. I'm gonna say do between 1/4 and 1/2 cup, just kind of depending on your taste and preference in your household. I leaned more towards the 1/4 cup measurement just because I have somebody that doesn't like cheese, but I knew he would give this a shot and he actually ended up really liking it. Cotija cheese is not like other cheese. It's hard to even tell it's there most of the time. I also added in about 3 to 4 tablespoons of lime juice. This was amazing. This filling was so good. Oh my gosh, I cannot recommend this one enough. So I just mixed all of that together, and that's the filling for our enchiladas. Now, if you wanted it to be a little creamier, you could mix some of that sauce in there. I did not. I could have, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just opted not to. But if you want it to kind of hold together a little better and be a little creamy on the inside, then go ahead by all means and toss some of the sauce in there. I'm just going to use it to pour over the top. I think it would have been fabulous with the sauce in there as well, but these were delicious on their own. There was so much flavor going on here. It was absolutely amazing. Now I am adjusting a little bit of the seasoning because I forgot to add the pepper, and once I mixed it, I thought, oh, you know, it's a little dry, so I added some more lime, and I didn't see quite enough chili powder in there. If you don't want to use chili and lime juice, you could also just use tahini powder instead. It's not something I buy, and it's not something I use, but a lot of people do. It's pretty popular. So if that is what you have or something you like, you could just use that in place of the chili powder and the lime juice. So again, I just grilled some corn tortillas straight on my gas burner. You could cook them in the microwave. You could use flour tortillas. It's up to you. I just wanted them to be pliable. And I'm rolling up these enchiladas, just placing some of that filling in there and rolling them right up nice and tight, seam side down into a greased casserole dish. And that's all there is to it. I don't remember how many I fit in this pan. I want to say it was like 8 of them. I fit quite a few in there. And I rolled them up nice and tight. These were amazing. They were so full of flavor. This is definitely something I would like to make again. We really do enjoy Mexican street corn salad, and rolling it up with some chicken and an enchilada made it even better. And this was not, you know, I mean, it's not the healthiest meal, but it certainly is a lot healthier than a lot of other meals. You can always opt for things like fat-free sour cream or replace the sour cream with Greek yogurt. Things like that are totally an option to kind of like make it a little bit on the healthier side. And of course, instead of doing like beef or shredded anything that's really greasy, I'm using rotisserie chicken breast and corn to make the filling. So this is definitely a bit healthier than your traditional enchiladas. And if you've watched me make enchiladas before, you know that I am pretty traditional about how I do it. And I do par fry the corn tortillas a little bit of oil to make them pliable. And I did not do that. I skipped that step in order to kind of reduce the amount of fat in this recipe. And they were still just lovely. I mean, grilled corn tortillas are delicious. They really are. They're fabulous. And these worked beautifully without being cooked in any oil. They were pliable and they held together really, really, really well. Once I got these all rolled, the only thing left to do was to go ahead and to top them. And I was really generous with that sauce. I am making another casserole dish of these that don't have any cheese on top. So that's why I still have some of the filling left over and I'll have some of the sauce left over. I made this for my husband and myself, and then for the kids I made one that didn't have any cheese on top. So I'm just making sure all the edges and corners are properly covered. If you don't get sauce on the edges of the tortillas, they can get really hard and it's like not a pleasant texture. So I make sure those are covered really well, and then I pour the rest of the sauce on, and I'm topping it with a bit of cheese. You can do as much or as little as you like. I'm just using a Colby Jack blend, but you can use whatever you have. And then once it came out of the oven, I topped it with some fresh avocado and some more cilantro and called it a day. This was amazing. Again, all of the recipes are listed down below for y'all, and I hope you will give them a shot because they are fabulous. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this week. I will be back on Tuesday with my grocery haul. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a fabulous weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye.